Welcome everyone to Marvel-ous Movie Mondays. As everyone who is a weekly viewer knows, Kelsey always takes that good old sip of tea right at the beginning, and guess what? Today I did it too. So that awkward silence, if you're an audio listener, I'm sorry. There was an awkward silence because we were both just sipping down our drinks
We
because
never
it is
drink our drinks simultaneously, so the fact that that just happened, hilarious. We're
it was
already off
purposeful too.
date.
It was completely intentional, by the way. It was not accidental. I
Oh,
was totally yes, I was
you were
mocking you.
copying me? I understand.
Mocking you, not copying.
Okay, I get it.
Anyway, welcome to Marvel's Movie Mondays. I am Dylan.
Oh, and I'm Kelsey.
That would be where you would introduce yourself. It's fine. We get into the formula, and then sometimes the formula we forget. Oh yeah, we got to do this. Um, we're getting on a groove. That's a good thing. We're getting our groove on the show. And Kelsey,
Yeah.
why don't you show off for the video viewers your brand new shirt, please? Why don't you
Yes.
show it off? Show it off.
My, mom just gifted me this shirt for Easter. We celebrated yesterday, so I got 2 new Marvel shirts to show off for the video watchers. For those of you listening, my shirt says, "I am Groot," quote, "I am Groot," obviously.
I was gonna say when you displayed the words "I am Groot," you went the other way because the Streamyard mirrors our video, so you really went Groot am I, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's an early morning. It's an early morning. This is the earliest we've been recording this podcast since we started. It's the earliest in the morning we've recorded, the wee hours of the morning, if you will. All right, Kelsey, what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 3,
That's right, the Power Breaker, right?
Power Broker. You're
Broker.
very
Well,
close.
It goes to show how much I know about this episode. I do know a good amount, but it's some things don't stick.
Yeah, I understand. Before we jump into the episode, though, we have news. We have
That's
to
right. We
share our
always have news.
news.
Of course. Go ahead, Kels. Start us
I'll
off with your news.
I'll go first. I just have another cast member confirmation from Thor: Love and Thunder. Russell Crowe has confirmed joined the cast. He's down in Australia with the rest of the cast.
I mean, he's been in Australia. It's just now he's doing something else in Australia because I think he lives in Australia, right?
I think
I don't know.
you know what? I actually think that he could live in Australia, but I think he's from New Zealand because I
Oh,
did
cool.
fun fact about me, my accent for my accent class in college. I was a theater major. So I had a class dedicated to dialects and speech, and my accent was the New Zealand accent. And
Oh
he
wow,
was one
nice.
of the celebrities. He actually gave a really good tip about the New Zealand accent. I'm going off the rails, but if
Go
anyone's
ahead.
trying to
Go off
do
the rails,
one,
please.
if anyone wants to know the a good tip to getting a good New Zealand or Australian accent, he said you have to make your mouth really small because there's a lot of bugs and things in Australia and New Zealand that you don't want to get trapped inside your mouth. So you have to make all of your vowels smaller. And I thought that that was a very helpful
So why don't you give us an example, Kelsey? Actually, you know what we're gonna do? Don't even give us an example now. We're gonna make you read your synopsis in a New Zealand accent. Does that work for you?
Oh,
Are you up for the
baby, I'll
challenge?
dust off these cobwebs. Okay, I'll do my
All
New
right.
Zealand accent.
But first, let me do my news.
Of
A
course.
very, very recent news. Last night, the SAG Awards happened, and our boy Chadwick. This is not Marvel news, but our boy Chadwick Boseman won his first SAG Award for his role in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Oh,
He is excellent in it. Everyone, go watch it if you haven't seen it. He won his award, and this is the last big acting prize before the BAFTAs and then the Oscars. But this year in the BAFTAs, there was a smaller voting body, so a lot of people are saying like the BAFTAs this year, like, we're kind of like taking them with a grain of salt. But the Oscars, the SAG Awards are a big predictor of the Oscars, and Chadwick won that SAG Award. So all signs are pointed to a big old Oscar for Chadwick Boseman, our beloved Black Panther. Yeah, and,
wow.
and a Black Panther co-star, Daniel Kaluuya, won Best Supporting Actor at the SAG Awards for Judas and the Black Messiah. So it was a really, really big day for Marvel actors at the SAG Awards. I think it's always fun to like point out when they're doing other little things. And
Yeah,
um,
totally.
I'm trying to think if any other Marvel actors won anything. No, I think that's it. Anyway, moving on. Let's move on to the episode. Let's get right into it.
Alrighty, let's do it.
Yeah, that's my little advertisement. Go watch Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Chadwick is amazing in it.
I have to check out that movie. It's been getting
Yeah,
some good stuff.
Viola Davis won Best Actress for it too last night. So you got to check it out. It's really good. I was gonna say, I was like, is she Marvel? And I realized she's DC. Viola Davis. So yeah, check out Ma Rainey, Kelsey, and we'll talk about it next week a little bit.
It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix movie.
Yep,
Okay,
Netflix. Yep.
that's what I thought.
Based on the August Wilson play, so it's a short little, it's tight run time. It's got that powerful August Wilson dialogue. It's got that beautiful performance there too. All right, are we ready to dive into Kelsey's brief and New Zealand synopsis
A
on
special
this
this week,
episode?
folks. Oh my gosh.
Take it away, Kelsey.
Honestly, I have to do like an intro sentence to like get
Sorry.
into it. So I say like
Taika Waititi yourself up. All you need.
Oh my god. Honestly, I really only I mean that's not true at all because Thor Ragnarok definitely wasn't in my life while I was taking this class. I don't even think it had come out yet, but the fact that I know how to do a New Zealand accent and I can just quote Korg all day long, that's really why I only enjoy using this accent.
There you go.
So I get into it by saying the New Zealand accent definitely isn't very hard. Okay, so Sam and Bucky team up with Zemo to find out how more super soldiers are being made. Carly and the Flag Smashers loot more places, and John Walker is on their trail.
Wow, that was
That was
incredible. I
it was
didn't
kind
listen
of
to a
butchered
word
a
you
little
said.
bit.
I didn't like pay attention to the words you were saying. I was just listening for the accent. I forgot to even pay attention to the context of the episode that we were covering as a refresher. So I'm just going, rogue today. But yeah, beautiful accent work.
Thank
Everyone,
you.
go take Kelsey's class when she eventually starts one. If you're
I'm
listening to this
think-
podcast 4 years from now, Kelsey has a whole dialect empire. So take one of her many courses across her many colleges that have popped up in the U.S. since. If you're listening to this 4 years from now,
I'm thinking about making a YouTube video about how to do a nice northern New Jersey accent because I feel like a lot of people don't get us right, you know?
yeah.
I watched
Well, they always go to the Joyzy. They're always like, oh yeah, all the Joyzy talk like Joyzy. Yeah, going to get a coffee. I'm from Joyzy, and it's like, no, we don't say that.
no one says Joyzy in New Jersey, okay?
Yeah, it's not guys and dolls.
That's not a thing.
Right.
So anyway, thank
Anyway.
you so much for praising my accent. It's a little rusty because it's been a while since I've really worked on it, but
I mean, I've never done one, so you're less rusty than I am. Speaking of rusty, I don't know how that segues.
Bucky's metal arm. How does that not get rusty? Let's talk about that.
Vibranium don't rust, girl. All right, let's go.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I mean, I don't know if it rusts or not. I'm assuming it doesn't.
Honestly, that's probably
best.
one of its qualities. That's probably what makes it a very desired metal. Is that
I mean, yeah.
it's it's near indestructible. So a little rust is gonna get on that. No, not today.
All right.
Okay, so let's jump into the ep, shall we? First of all, Dill, I gotta say, loved this episode. Loved it. Favorite so far. I gotta be honest.
I'm still loving the last one just because of again, if you haven't checked out our podcast from last week, I thought it was probably my favorite podcast we've done too because we really got into some great discussions about race and involved with superhero movies, which we don't really talk about much.
Right.
And I think for those reasons, I really, really, really liked last episode. This episode I liked. There were a few little qualms I had with it, but again, like
Sure.
I think I'm gonna sound like a broken record. The opinion on each episode is generally positive. It's the overall series where I'm still kind of like, it just feels like it could have been a 2.5 to 3 hour movie, and I feel like because they needed to make it a series, some things are elongated when they don't need to be, and there's other plot lines that probably would have been cut in the editing room had they just made a movie. And I like spending more time with these characters, obviously, but something about an episodic show is that like each episode can like stand on its own. And I thought WandaVision did that so well, whereas here, again, I'm a broken record player. I've said it every week. I think this is almost like you're pausing the remote right when it's getting to the good stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, we'll watch the rest of this movie later, rather than that was a great episode, let me sit on this episode for a week. It's more like, I'm just waiting to see how this one story ends. But
Sure.
again, like I like each episode. I think each episode brings some good stuff. Each episode brings some stuff I think we've seen too much of before, which we'll get into. And I think this is going to be interesting because Kelsey, if you guys haven't heard the villains ranking from a few weeks ago, Kelsey was not too hot on Helmut Zemo, and I always thought he was one of the most intriguing villains for the reasons why maybe we'll talk about today. But we'll have to see if Kelsey has changed a new tide, or if she's, I don't even know if that's a phrase. Or if maybe she's still on the Zemo dislike train, but maybe not the hate train. Or maybe she hates him even more, especially for his dance moves. Who knows?
Well, we'll see. I understand what you're saying, Dill, with the episodes, because it feels I understand. Why it doesn't feel like a TV series is because I feel like it's only one focal plot that we're kind of
Hmm.
focusing on. There's really no subplots happening. I mean, there were in the beginning when we saw Sam with his sister and with their family troubles that were happening and their financial problems, and then we saw Bucky with his little notebook and him going
Hmm.
to make amends with people. But we've kind of dropped off a little bit from those two side plots, and we've really just been focusing on the main issue here, which is
Hmm.
finding out where these super soldiers are coming from. So I can understand why it feels less of a TV show and more like you're just stopping and starting a movie over and over again. But what I do appreciate about this series is that we're moving, like
Yeah.
I feel like it's paced like really, really nicely.
Yeah. Because we're
To the
halfway done now. We're exactly
Yeah,
halfway done.
I
So
cannot
like
believe we only have three more
it
left.
really is progressing. And honestly, the first episode, like I said, I thought it was pretty slow. So the fact that they
Mm,
are progressing it so well, I do have to commend them on that. You're right; they are really moving the story along. I mean, we're not really dwindling on too many areas, but again, like I said, because it does feel like a big movie, there are things that I think could have been cut entirely, like full on plot lines. Um, that we'll talk about. I mean, again, they might pay off later, but right now there's a few storylines where I'm like, you know, what's going on here. So
sure.
we'll talk about it. So let's dive right in.
All right, so we start before we I can't remember if this is after the opening credits or before it, but we started with a commercial for the GRC, the Global Representation Council. Forget the R word, didn't write it down. And they're just advertising what they do and what they stand for. And their slogan is restore, no, 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 reset, restore, rebuild. We jump into scene one, a scene with John Walker and his sidekick, Lamar Hoskins, and they are infiltrating the refugee camp facility type place that Carly and the Flag Smashers were staying in the previous episode. They're interrogating the main guy, saying, we know they were here. Where did they go? Where are they? And he's not giving them anything. He's not giving into them at all, which makes John grab him. He spits on John and grabs him and shouts in his face, "Do you know who I am?" And to that, I was just cringing so hard because it was so anti Cap. It is something that Steve would never, ever do. He would never just like wield his shield and be like, "Do you know who I am? Like, I'm the Captain America." Like, it was such a like A-list celebrity moment that was like, "Do you know who I am? I asked for sparkling water, not this tap
Yeah,
water bullshit." Like, it was just, and
it's
he's just,
showing how like the fame is kind of like
yeah.
getting to him and making him like again, this happens with a lot of people. It's like once they hit their big break and the fame, they get attracted to the fame. They either do one of three things. They become like one of the pioneers for like some great charity or cause. You become Leonardo DiCaprio. You make your life about uh, a certain issue, and you stick to that. You
Mhm,
do the second thing, which is addiction. You get into drugs or alcohol, or you go into depression, and the stardom. You fall with the stardom. It's like A Star Is Born. You see, like Bradley Cooper's character. He suffers from the fame and the stardom slipping away. And then the third thing, you become a diva,
a giant
and you
douchebag.
become you become a giant douchebag. And sometimes divas, if you're a diva who can own it but also acknowledge that you are a diva and like embrace it, there's some power to that. But when you're just a straight
Mhm,
up diva because you're a little bit uncomfortable and insecure, that's when it becomes a problem. And you can tell John Walker is very insecure with his new title. He still hasn't fully, grown into the pants of Cap. He hasn't filled the
Yeah.
shoes yet. Weird analogies. But he's early
You're
morning.
a little off today in the analogy apartment, I have to say, but you know what?
It's
It's
fine.
just one of those mornings.
I'm still trying to figure out the whole like small vowel thing that we were talking about earlier. Um,
You're still trying to figure out how to perfect your New
right.
Zealand accent. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
but like yeah, like people slip into that too, like the divaness. It's like you
Yeah.
can't be a diva unless you are fully deserving of it. And even then, like some divas, even if you are deserving of it, abuse that. And it's like, oh, it's just so annoying.
Yeah.
Again, the character's annoying, but I think that's a testament to the actor and his performance. And
Yeah.
people have been sending this guy death threats. I don't know if you've seen online. That was almost my news, but then I was like, this is kind of part of the you know the show, so I'll save it for later. They're sending
S
the actor death threats.
Okay, so those people are crazy or, like, 12 years old. I don't know what to say to that.
Right,
Like,
but again, the
that's
internet
just
age is usually not like if someone trolls you or posts a comment on the internet, it's very hard to tell exactly how old they are unless they specify or unless like it's common knowledge. Like whether it's a 12-year-old saying "go kill yourself" or 30-year-old, like I mean, as an actor, I'm putting myself in those shoes. Like I would hate that. Like you're doing your job. You're supposed to be playing. The same thing happened with Joffrey in Game of Thrones. It's like,
And didn't the
uh,
same thing happen to an actor in the Star Wars franchise? I don't know her name or her character, but
oh,
she was like
Rose.
she was hated
Yeah,
so badly that,
yeah,
like,
and that in that case, she wasn't even playing a villain. She was like the endearing supporting character. It's just people just wanted to get on the bandwagon. Yeah,
I will never understand that. I'm like, you have to know that
no,
the actor has nothing to do with what this character's like. If
no,
anything, some actors take it as a compliment. They're like, "Oh, if you're taking it out on me, then I must be doing something right with my character and
hmm
my job." And I hope that he's doing that. I hope that he's taking any negativity coming his way as
yeah.
a compliment.
I
But
haven't been reading a ton, but I do think he's embracing it. He's like, you know what? If I piss you off, like I love it. I love trolling you all, and I think that is the right
good,
attitude to have. But if you are an actor, especially coming into this franchise, if you're a new actor to this franchise, no matter how established you are, if Russell Crowe comes into Thor: Love and Thunder and is getting death threats, like even the most seasoned actor, you're stepping into a franchise with a lot of fans that are at like heightened emotions and heightened
super fans.
perspectives. Yeah, super fans, and you're never gonna please them all. But props for the actor. Oh my gosh, Wyatt. Oh man,
Russell,
my Wyatt Russell. Yes, sorry, my
I
brain is
could have made
yeah,
that up.
yeah, it's Wyatt Russell.
Okay.
Props on Wyatt Russell for taking it like a champ and and saying you know what, f you haters, if you're gonna come at me, fuck you too. So
Okay, so we know in the last episode that they were intending to team up with Zemo. So we cut to the prison where he's being held in Germany. And Bucky says, "Hey, I'm just going to go in by myself because you might like throw off the vibe basically to Sam." And he goes in
threw off
by
my groove,
himself.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, Bucky lays down, uh, um, catches Zemo up on everything that's happening, and we find out in the next scene that the reason why Bucky went in by himself was because his whole plan was to break him out of jail. So then, in the next scene, I call the car garage, or I don't know where this car place is, but this is where they ended up. Um, Bucky walks through Sam a hypothetical situation where he could have broken someone out of prison. And obviously, at the end of the montage, Zemo reveals himself to be there as well. They have
Mhm.
this great little moment where Zemo rather, tries to interrupt their conversation because obviously Sam's like, this guy's a war criminal. He killed King
Right.
T'Chaka. No, he's going back to jail. I'm not getting involved with this. And Zemo cuts him off saying, if I may. And they both go, no. And we have this great little moment of Zemo just going, okay, apologies. Like he immediately knows his place.
I was
And
gonna say,
I would
what was your reaction like seeing him walk out? Were you like surprised? Were you just like,
oh,
what? Or
baby Dill, no. I called this last week. I literally
you did.
wrote down the team up. I said they are
Okay.
going to team up. I can feel it in my bones. And they did. And I was taking in all the satisfaction of being right. I was so
Mhm.
excited because honestly, I like him. I like him. I said it. There. I
Wow.
turned
Okay,
around.
she's turned around.
But to be
Turn
fair,
around.
he is 10 times more interesting. I would even go as far as to say 100 times more interesting in this episode than he is in the entire Civil War
Mhm.
movie. Like
That's fair.
like
I think this
he's
does a
just
good
so
job
much
like
more
making
interesting.
yeah, making that personality feel fleshed out. The thing I mean, we'll talk about this later though. His whole mission about like get rid of super soldiers and like that's still his quota, you know?
Yeah.
And that's where we'll see with the last moment of the episode like how that kind of ties back around. And, you know, I don't necessarily think I think it's almost like they're not fully together. I think it's like there's this element almost like a ticking time bomb where it's like
Yeah,
there's
for
gonna be
sure.
a point where Zemo's gonna be like, oh wait, Bucky, you're also still a soldier, boom, you know,
Mm,
and he's gonna want to do that. And there's gonna be even Bucky who might be like, yeah, now I gotta get rid of you. So I feel like there's this like underlying like we know like eventually we're gonna be against each other again. But like, do we work together in the meantime? Is this
right.
Zemo's? Does he have alternative motives? I'm still thinking, and I know this is we're not going to go deep into like WandaVision theory with this shit,
Okay.
but like,
It
but
He's
I
Mephisto.
do think I I
Sorry,
do
I brought
think
it
though
up.
he might it might be one of those like Agatha all along things where like at the end it's revealed that Zemo did have ulterior motives. Like I
Mm,
don't know if it's fully all you know, for the right intentions as we're led to believe. Because obviously he's a more interesting character, but I don't know about likable just because I feel like there's still a bit of him that I'm still wary of. You know, he's
mm.
willing. I mean, I know we're jumping to the next scene, but he's willing to like basically uh, give them poison when he said something about the drinks on the plane. You know, like oh
Oh,
if they're bad
sure.
drinks, like give it to them. Like
Yeah.
he's still willing to like let them die, and that's one of the interesting things, and that's the interesting dynamic. It's like a ticking time bomb. It's like you're walking
Yeah.
around with a bomb. It's that episode of Grey's Anatomy with the bomb in the girl, and
In the
it's like and the
chest
bomb squad's in
cavity
there.
and
Yeah, and it's like
Meredith,
if
yeah.
yeah, she's got to keep her hand on it. And, like it could go off at any second, or
Right.
she could walk away from it, and it'll be interesting to see if Zemo is this bomb or if Bucky's the bomb. You know, in
Sure.
this relationship. So continue along,
It's
or
honestly the
yeah.
same energy as like, I feel like when those people had that alliance in the Hunger Games movies, like, like, it's cool to have an alliance, I guess, in the beginning, but like, as the numbers dwindle, you're gonna eventually have to turn on each
Right.
other, you know? So, that's kind of the same vibe we're getting from
Hmm.
this, motley crew of Sam, Bucky, and Zemo. I mean,
Definitely.
his motive might simply just to be, "Well, I'm not going back to jail." So when this is all over and when I'm done helping you, I'm either going to kill you to ensure I don't go back to jail or we're going to have to work something out because I'm not going back there. Because he even
Yeah.
says something, I was going to write this down, but he even says something to Bucky while they're at the prison where he says, well, at least during your imprisonment, you weren't even conscious. Like he clearly just like, is not handling being in
Hmm.
solitary confinement, it looks like.
Right.
Um, because honestly, who would? So then we find out that Zemo's fucking loaded. He has
Yeah.
all these fancy cars. He comes from he's basically like an heir. He's inherited
Mhm.
all this money, this
Yeah.
family fortune.
And I think it's
Um,
interesting because like the Baron title, like at first it was like, yeah, is Baron his first name? It's like, no, Baron is he's a Baron. He is a person of
yeah.
royalty, and that's something that they really didn't go into in the first one.
Hmm.
And that's what makes I think when we were talking, or the first one meaning Civil War, I think that's honestly what makes him more, you know, it makes it more impactful because now you realize if he's royalty, he's the one who got rid of T'Chaka, who is
Hmm.
also royalty, and there's that
Hmm.
like common thread because I think a lot of the what we were saying on the villains ranking, you were saying like what is his motivation, like what's his deal, and I think now understanding that puts it into a different light. I think is this whole like you wiped out my family, which I'm a big deal, so that's a big deal. You know,
Mm,
we didn't really get that. You know.
yeah. So they start packing up a car, getting ready to go to his private jet with his butler.
Butler, yeah.
And he grabs a mask from the back seat. And for comic book readers, you know that this is a nod to his classic comic book look from the comics. Very redundant sentence. We're going to move on. Zemo has Oh, and then they get on the plane to now this is where he makes the comment about the food, like, his butler's like, "I know that it sorry if your champagne is a little warm, the fridge hasn't been working, I'll see if there's any good food," and he's like, "Oh, well, if it doesn't even smell that good, you just give it to them." So, you can tell there's definitely animosity, but I don't
Oh,
think a little rotten food is enough to kill them.
that was the thing, like,
Um
I took it as, like, if the food's bad, like, if it's been messed with, like, if it's been
Oh.
poisoned. I totally didn't even
I
put it
mean,
together that it
maybe.
could just be, but, I mean, even then, like, you're willing to give, like, nasty, dirty food to, like, these people, like, there's obviously not, like, a friendship, there's no kinship here,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely not. They're all very it's very much like we just like need each other. We don't want to be together. We just have something that we all need and that's how we're going to have to play this. We're just going to have
Mhm.
to get along for the time being. Um to which Zemo has Bucky's little notebook, which I kept rewatching the scene. I'm like, at what point does he get the notebook? How does he get the little notebook? Because he gets the swipe card from Bucky, somehow getting that book to him to break him
I'm
out of
wondering if
jail.
I'm wondering
So
if it's, like, when they broke him out of jail, he needed a new outfit to wear or something, and he was like, "Here's a suit," and it just had his thing in the jacket pocket. I
I
don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I don't know
Mm,
how he ended up with the notebook, but he ends up with the little notebook to which Sam sees and confirms that it was Steve's little red notebook that he has in Winter Soldier. And
right.
then they talk about this the album that Sam introduced to Steve, Trouble Man by Marvin Gaye. And Zemo has this great line where he says, "It is a masterpiece. It captures the African American experience." To which Sam is like, "Well, he's correct, but he's a little out of line, but he's not wrong either." And
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, like Zemo, like the ally we didn't know we needed. I'm
Mhm.
honestly.
Yeah.
Um
And again, it's like it's nice because like last week the stuff about race was like so forward, which I appreciated because I think Marvel has
mhm,
yet to like go head on with it. But this
yeah,
episode, it was very subtle. It was like a little seed where it's like we can still hold people accountable and hold consider people allies, but it doesn't have to be like this huge moment now. Now we can just slip it in dialogue because nowadays that's what it is. It's like you can have it in conversation. It's not weird to talk about it. It's like not weird to mention things or like what Sam was like. I mean, he's right. Like
yeah,
it's normal now to like have that be a part of conversation. Like having race be a more prevalent topic of conversation. And it doesn't have to
yeah,
be this whole big moment, which I
right,
appreciated. I like how they're
sure.
kind of finding those little threads. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's still Disney, so I feel like we're still like, tiptoeing, really testing the waters with how
exactly,
far we can take this. But I definitely think that there can always be more conversations happening and more
definitely.
representation, et cetera, et cetera. That goes without even having to be needing to be said. Um, and then Zemo goes on his long winded explanation about how he doesn't appreciate the super soldiers. He says, do we want to live in a world with people like Red Skull? And he goes off on this tangent why he doesn't respect the Captain America kind of what it stands for, because at the end of the day, people can't help themselves from idolizing these figures, like turning these people in politics, dare I say, into celebrities. And I couldn't
Hmm.
help but think about what we just had to go through with our past administration here in America, how this
Yeah.
man was just sensationalized for no reason whatsoever. And I really found it interesting that they were kind of, there was this metaphor happening this
Hmm.
episode. So they decide that they need to start in this place called Madripoor, which is an island in Indonesia. And it's basically like it started as like Bucky says that it started as like a place where like pirates went in like the 1800s. And now it's just this like criminal run city where there's no laws and all the black market stuff happens. It reminds me of I think it's maybe called Nowhere. Is it Nowhere in Guardians of the Galaxy where they go, where the collector is and
Yes,
all that
yes.
stuff is happening? That's on Nowhere?
Yeah.
Okay, so my Guardians knowledge has not failed me yet. Great.
Good.
Um, so then we cut to this scene where basically we find out that Carly has someone, the leader of this Flag Smashers, has someone important to her pass away because she's been neglected in one of these refugee camps for the displaced people from the blip. Another sweet little metaphor we have going for us. If you're familiar with everything that's happening down at the border in America. We love that. And then we cut to Madripoor. So, and now
You know
we
what's so interesting about that, Kelsey, is that you
sure.
just kind of said, "Oh, there's a Carly scene," and then you moved on. That is probably my biggest qualm with this episode is that this Carly character, she's
Yeah.
like kind of in the first episode a little bit, like they're teasing her, they're making her seem the way they're giving her like a lot of like attention in terms of name dropping and like visual dropping of her in places. We're meant to like care, like at least empathize with her and understand her and like be intrigued by her, but I feel like they're really just glossing over her. I mean, I feel
Sure.
like if she is supposed to be this big character, like this scene didn't do enough for me to be like, wow, Carly, like I feel for her. Like I I just I don't know enough about her, and I get like there's a mystery and an intrigue, but it's like it seems like there are three major things going on in this show. It's the Captain America stuff with John Walker, the Baron Zemo stuff with the super soldiers, and then like Carly with the Flag Smashers. And I feel like that they're all connected, but I mean they've done so much with John Walker in the last episode. They've done so much with Zemo in this episode. It's like Carly, she's there, but I'm just we're not learning much at all. And it's
Right.
like I wish they gave her like a little more because I mean she's a really intriguing character, but like I just they're not giving her much at all. And I think that's just one of the parts. That's what I was saying earlier with it being a series and not like a movie is that you can afford to put a little bit more plot in there. But when you're adding this whole plot line and making one of the Flag Smashers this big character that you're supposed to empathize with, but then you don't give her a lot of screen time, it's like I don't know. That one part I felt gypped. I was like, wait, that's it? Like we're moving on already? Like,
No,
and
yeah.
then we didn't see her again. It was like, yeah,
They're definitely setting her up. Like, they're not giving her enough, so like, by the end of this, like, she's gonna lose. Like, they're not, like, giving her enough where it's even, like, it even seems plausible that she's gonna, like, stand a chance in the end, you know? Like,
but
I
then
feel like
what's the drama? You know, like,
that's what yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you.
yeah,
I am. But
yeah.
at the
I think
same
that's
time,
yeah,
she is a villain that we've seen before in the MCU, so we kinda get like, we know what her motive is. We know what at the end of the day, what she wants, and this is a trope that we've seen before, like,
yeah.
the complicated villain, she almost has the same, uh, objective and mindset as Thanos a little bit. She's just a lot less powerful and
Right,
there's
yeah.
no stone hunt.
Mhm.
She wants to. She's sick of being forgotten and displaced, and she wants power any way that she can get it. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's a shame that we're not really diving deep into who she is because then at
Mhm.
least if we were given more of her backstory, we were, told about, kind of what happened to her, the day she blipped back to now, then maybe we would kind of root for this character a little bit, or not necessarily root for her to and want Sam and Bucky to lose, but at least like maybe they could come to some sort of compromise or agreement at the end.
I agree.
But instead, it's like really like you know, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like she's not making it out of this,
I think
her
just some
her
of
and
the
her
story yeah.
movement.
Some of the storylines that I feel like should be expanded upon are being too short-lived, and I think some of the concepts that, like, it's pretty clear what it's going for, they drag out, and I think that's my issue with this show so far as a show, not each episode, but as a show, is that, like, there are, like, a lot of interesting things that just aren't given enough time, and then there are things that are given too much time, and it's, like, trying to find that balance. Like, you have 6 episodes, like you should be able to tell in 6 hours a coherent story for her, or why not add more episodes? You know, like it's a TV series, you
Yeah,
can add episodes. So
totally.
it's interesting. Yeah, let's keep going now to this this lovely neon infested, a very colorful
Yeah.
place. It reminded me of Blade Runner a little bit. I don't know if you've seen
Okay.
Blade Runner, but like that aesthetic,
Yeah,
kind of futuristic, kind of like
totally.
dark, gloomy.
Almost like that planet that Yondu is on at
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning with the Sylvester Stallone in Guardians 2 with those
Guardians
like
2. Yeah.
robot hookers. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
those are the only things that I can picture because they're just
It's
so.
noir. It's very noir inspired. It's like,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So then Zemo drops just my favorite line in the whole TV show. He's back
I
at it
love this
again
whole
with
like
those
I
like.
love for Zemo. I
No,
love it.
I love him. I'm obsessed. I literally wrote down, wait, a few notes down. I literally write Zemo sexy.
Was it the dance?
Um, well, we'll get there when we get there. I have to.
Okay.
Explain that further. But so basically, they get to Madripoor. He's explaining to them, like, Bucky, you're gonna have to take up the identity of the Winter Soldier again because that's basically gonna be our insurance that no one else fucks with us while we're here because they know how dangerous you are. He gives Sam a fake identity, and Sam's like, "Why am I the only one dressed as a pimp?" To which Zemo responds, "Only an American would assume a fashion-forward black man looks like a pimp." And I was just like, I heard that, and I was like, "Whew, huh, Zemo's dropping knowledge on us." Dare I say, he's dropping bars. That's the word. And thank you all for witnessing the worst thing I've ever said in my life. Um, but I'm just like, I'm like,
He's woke.
wow, this is
Yeah.
I'm I'm like speechless. I can't even like put into words like how much I'm adoring this man. So then I wrote that here comes my line. Zemo's sexy, but like not in a conventional way. Like he's definitely not like a Channing Tatum like
Yeah.
Brad Pitt sexy. He's like a smoke a cigar and like drink whiskey with him sexy. Like he's just a classy dude. You know what I think it is? I think it's his utter and his utter confidence he has when he just like he has on his fur coat and he's drinking champagne in his private jet and he's like, this is what we have to do, this is how I deal with criminals, you're going to be fashion forward black men and this is my Winter Soldier and we're about to go mess this up. Like
Well,
I
and
just
that's what I always like, and that's
ooh
that's kind of what I was saying with the villains, Reggie. Is like it's none of this. It's none of the hands on. It's
yeah.
all the man behind the curtain, and I actually really like that in like a villain in general. So I'm glad you're coming around to the whole idea that like he's got like it's all here. It's all in the mental. It's all strategically planned. It's very methodic.
Yeah, and especially like during just like this whole Mata, what's it called? Madripoor aesthetic. I'm like, this is a sexy episode. Like, I'm like loving this. I was really eating this one up. So
I'm
then
glad you were.
they get go into a bar type looking place, and we notice that there's a sign in the background that says Power Broker is watching. So obviously there's this guy in the sky or how some people in America think, Big Brother is always watching. Yeah, that's the power broker in this universe. So, um,
They were in a hex. Spoiler alert. The power broker is outside
it's
with
WandaVision.
with
It's
sword.
Wanda. She's watching. She's the power broker. Um, so they get into this bar. Zemo's asking around. He's trying to get in touch with this Selby oh my goodness, this Selby character because he has a feeling that she'll know where the serum's coming from, and
Mhm.
therefore they'll be know who to go to and stop. He markets Bucky as the Winter Soldier, as we know, just to prove to everyone that he's the most badass in the room.
And
Um,
so they don't mess with him because like if they don't let him through, it's like look what I got. Like it's
no,
kind of the
exactly.
the Avengers moment. Like we got a Hulk. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
using someone else as your brawn to basically intimidate others, and it's a smart thing because it works.
No, yeah, totally. So then we see someone and then it cuts really quickly to someone in the crowd pull up their hood and walk away. Just made a mental note of that.
Hmm.
Sam in his disguise has to take a very nasty shot that has some sort of like fish guts or something. I forget what he throws in there, but he's like, oh, there's this very like funny bit where he
Yeah.
unfortunately has to take the shot or else he will be killed on sight. um And then Bucky just kind of attacks this guy. So, he, lays down the law. He's like, no one can fuck with us. Like, I'm the Winter Soldier. I will literally slaughter anyone who gets in our way. So then we have this meeting with this Selby. Oh my goodness, I keep saying that. I think it's because I'm wanting to say Shelby because
Yeah.
that's the name my mouth is used to saying.
Yeah.
But her name is Selby. It's just like Hoskins and Hopkins. Like, just make the character's name Shelby. Selby, we have this meeting with this Selby character. Zemo offers Bucky for information, and she tells us that this character, this guy named Dr. Wilford Nagel, has been making the serum and selling it. Unfortunately, during this meeting, Sam gets a call from Sarah. Selby instructs that he answers the call on and puts it on speaker. And for a
Mm.
while, Sam's able to kind of keep the act up. But right at the end of the phone call, Sarah calls him Sam, to which Selby says, kill them all right now. But obviously, they make it out alive because Zemo shoots Selby and Bucky. Honestly, like, I don't know if we're ever going to get this Bucky again, because if he's only ever going to be this badass and this cool, like, while he's the Winter Soldier persona, like, this is the
Mhm.
Bucky I've been waiting for since episode
But
1,
but I think there's a part of him that, like, to move on and to deal and to cope, he needs to leave
Right.
this behind because
I
this isn't
know, but
healthy,
he's so hot when he's taking down those bad guys. I'll say it.
Kelsey.
I'll be the first to say it. It's hot, and I want more of it because
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, if you're looking at it from that angle, fine. But I'm just saying, like, in terms of the character, like, yeah, like
I know.
as he was killing
Character
those people in the
development.
bar and stuff, I was like, wow, like this must be tough for him because like
Yeah, I
now he's not
know.
even being forced to do it, but he has to do it, and it's
Mhm.
under the hands of Zemo at the same time. It's like that's it's like a slow knife in the yeah,
I
yeah,
know. It's conflicting. I get
yeah.
it. So then someone puts a bounty out for Selby's murderers. So then Sam, Bucky, and Zemo are all like everyone in Madripoor are going after them. Um, and they run into Sharon. Good old Sharon Carter swoops in and saves the
shows up
day.
shows
And
up out of nowhere.
as she enters, she does take off her hood, which I think is on purpose because that leads me to deduce that she was the person in the crowd who
Yeah,
overheard that Sam, Bucky, and Zemo were there.
I
She was
assume.
like,
Yeah,
oh, I gotta go deal with this. And voila, there she was. And she explains that, she's unfortunately she had to completely abandon her life in the States since she was never pardoned for what she did in Civil War.
hmm
Um, Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm drinking tea. Um, and, she's had to live out the rest of her days in
right.
Madripoor, so
hmm
she offers them to, seek shelter at her place for a little bit. We find out that she's kinda, like, pawning off these really fancy, like, pieces of art, these, original Monets and Van Goghs. She's a hustler. And she says, you guys have to change so we can figure this out. And there's this little moment where Sam is shirtless, changing into, whatever he's putting on next. And she checks him out and goes, well, that's better. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. You're going to kiss Cap and then hit on his friends. Okay, I
Yeah,
see you,
it's
girl.
weird. We got some
Honestly,
Degrassi shit going on right here.
she's
Like,
living all of our dreams, isn't she? Um, so she's we kind of are introduced to this more badass, harder edge, I've seen some shit, Sharon. um she's
but
not a
Kels, you know what you got? You know what I'm gonna say? I felt they
please.
rushed it. I think they rushed it.
Okay.
I think they
Okay.
rushed through it, and I just think there are things that should be given time. If you have a series, if you have a movie, I get it. You have a runtime. If you have a series, take the time to fully like explore and explain where these characters have been. Even if you're not showing like a backstory, like at least give us a little bit more. Because I just felt like they saw Sharon and then immediately went right into like the action of it all. And
Mm,
again, like that's fine, but like yeah, as someone who's very character invested, as opposed to like action invested, I was, for those moments was disappointed. I liked the episode, but that's, my main thing.
yeah. No, I get it. It was definitely like it was a lot to handle in like a very short scene because she was
Yeah.
like that stars and stripes bullshit. Like, are you actually given to that? Good thing you got rid of the shield. The hypocrisy in that, like, it was all very like, whoa, this is how you feel about like the U.S. government, like that you worked for years, and like Steve, like you've just completely forgot that you like hooked up with Steve during Civil War. I was like, it was a lot to take in. It left like that scene definitely left like a bad taste in my mouth. And like
Right, and I think
after
it's
the
because they
first watch
rushed through
through.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
no,
they rushed
totally.
through it, and I think, like, it's meant to give a bad taste in your mouth, or they need to explain why you should have a bad taste in your mouth, they should
Mm.
it shouldn't just be, "I have a bad taste in my mouth because like, I didn't get any more information and, like, I don't know how to feel about that because you didn't explain yourself thoroughly." It should be like, "Oh, she explained her whole story," and like, "Oh, that leaves me with a bad taste in my mouth," like, it should be justified.
Yeah,
Um,
and Bucky even
no.
says during that scene, like, oh, she's kind of awful now. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, Bucky, I'm with you. Same page
Mm,
here. Um, so then Sam and Sharon make this deal that, you know what, if you can give us any information about this Wilford Nagel guy, I will get you pardoned so you can come back to the US. And they shake on it. So it seems like she's not in like dismissing the idea of like returning back to her life in the States. Maybe not completely how it was, but like definitely returning, making a return in some capacity at all. It would kind of suck
right,
if she was like, no, fuck that, I'm here now. But she,
right.
she shakes his hand and is like, if you can get me pardoned, then like, yeah, let's do it. Um, so then they cut to this kind of like shipment yard. I forget what these things are called. They're
Like,
like freight cars, I want to say, but like
shipyard,
not.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
shipyard, yeah.
Okay. So she takes them to container 4261. She says, like, that's where Wilford Nagel's lab is.
Any
And
significance there with that number?
no, I was gonna
No.
save it for our Easter egg talk, but I did look
It's
into
okay.
that number and
Okay.
for a second I thought she said 24601. And I was gonna be
Oh,
like, I'm
Jean
sorry, are
Valjean,
there
yeah.
theater fans writing this show?
Right,
Because
like,
I see
Jean
you.
Valjean.
So then they interrogate this Wilfred Nagel character where he basically has his like evil villain speech. He's like, this is why I've been doing everything I've been doing, and this is where I'm going to take it next. And like, I was like, okay, this is very interesting. So
Mhm.
then we find out that he was recruited by the CIA to kind of pick well, originally he was recruited by Hydra to pick up the super soldier serum program where it left off. The blip happened. He came back. He was recruited by the CIA to recreate the serum, and he was going off of blood samples from an American test subject. To which I said, Isaiah,
Yeah.
because I called that as well. Granted,
Mhm.
I can't give myself too much credit because this show is not as confusing as WandaVision
Yeah.
was. This
And and
this
and they kinda made it very clear that he was, like, a test subject because he said he was the last one to survive. Like, they made it clear that he had been through some tests. It's just, like, this specific test. Yeah, it links up. You called it.
Thank you, Dip. Just like let me have it every now and then. I was very
Yeah.
off with WandaVision, and I'm taking my points where I can get them.
Was anyone on with WandaVision? Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
you're right. We were all off with WandaVision. So he says that he created the serum from that. He has a little Erskine. Yeah, no, that's not his name at all. Erskine. He's an Stanley Tucci's character from Captain America:
Mm,
The First Avenger. He drops his name. He's like, "I've been the best scientist since that guy," and I was like, "All right, relax." Um, but he says that his serum was going to be subtle, optimized, and perfect. He says that he made 20 serums and that Carly stole them all, and that and that the power broker was going to be coming after her. So now we know that the death threat that she got in the first episode where we see her look at her phone and it says, "You took something of mine. I'm going to
is
find you and kill you,"
the power
is from
broker.
the power broker, and obviously it was referring to the serums. um so then Sharon lets them know that there's all kind of bounty hunters that are after them. She's beating them down all, not effortlessly, but like she's doing a damn good job going like 1 on like 10. So
Yeah.
I was like, damn, Sharon Carter, she can get it as well. She was just as hot
Yeah.
as the Winter Soldier. So I don't know. I don't. Okay. So then
It's
Zemo.
no, yeah, you're right,
I mean, am I
100%. I
wrong?
mean, no, you were not wrong. Yeah, it's
Hot,
if there's anything
sexy
these
fight scenes in this one.
the 2021 is the year of the beautiful Marvel ladies just kicking ass and showing up the men, and yeah, Wanda did it. She's doing it now.
Yep.
The
Yep.
Black Widow's gonna do it. It's the year of the lady in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I feel it.
The year of the lady. I love that. So then, obviously, some more commotion happens. Zemo kills Nagel because well, first Bucky asks him, "Is there any serum in this lab?" To which he replies, "No." Things get, dicey. Zemo kills Nagel. Sharon comes in and is
Mhm.
like, "What did you do?" The
Right,
lab
that took me by surprise too, because I was like, "You're getting rid of someone who's like obviously is playing a big role in this."
Right.
Um,
I mean, I
yeah,
think that was always his intention because obviously we know that he doesn't like super soldiers. He doesn't want them to exist. So obviously he's
right.
going to take out the one guy
Oh yeah.
in this entire universe that knows how to recreate the serum. He says he was the only one that was successful. Boom, easy. Get him out of there.
Yeah.
I can't blame him. So then Sharon and them, they escape from the lab and they have a little bit more of a fight sequence. Sharon and them part ways. Um, and then they have this great little callback moment to Civil War when, lo and behold, Cap and Sharon are having their first and only kiss in front of the car that Sam and Bucky are sitting in, where Bucky says, "Can you move up your seat?" And Sam says, "No." So then Bucky gets in the front seat, Sam gets in the back seat. Sam says, "You're not going to move up your seat, are you?" And Bucky says, "No." So that's a nice little callback to that
Yeah.
moment that I greatly appreciated. And then we see Sharon walk away, get into her getaway car, and say, "We got a problem, a couple. I'll tell you about them in the car." So now we're
Mhm.
kind of getting the vibe that Sharon is a little sketchier than we thought a little bit,
Yeah.
than we
There's a
thought
lot of
before.
this like ulterior motives of like what is everyone's actual motive in this? Because I think we know Bucky and Sam's, and I think that's what's interesting is like they're the most at this point they're the most like plain Jane like this is their motive. But like Zemo, it's like what's his real motive, and then like Sharon, it's what's her real motive. Carly, what's her real motive, and then you have of course
Yeah.
this last reveal at the end, which we'll talk about in a sec. What's their motive? It's a lot. It's a lot. And it's interesting. It's keeping the show more exciting than I actually thought it would in the first episode. 'Cause
Yeah.
the first episode I was like, "Oh, it's so straightforward," but actually they're making room for some mystery, which is good.
Yeah, no, totally. I agree. And it's gonna okay. We'll get to there when we get there. But
Okay.
I've thoughts about
All
that.
right.
So then we cut back to Carly and her kind of sidekick muscle man friend. I don't know his name, but he is also very attractive, and his accent. Oh man,
Can you do that one
I
or
could
no?
listen to that all day long. Well, they're very he's more Australian, and
Okay.
so they're very similar. It's just New Zealand's a little bit tighter and a little bit, smaller, whereas Australians are a bit more, like, wider is the only way
Wider
I can
vowels, yeah.
explain it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, very nice accent on this gentleman. I'm gonna learn his name and follow him
Good
on
I
Instagram
might.
later.
It's the only
S
phrase I know how to say.
What did he say? What did you say?
I said the only phrase I know how to say in Australian is good day, mate, because it's good, I, and might. So you put it together. Good eye, mate.
I love
I'm
that.
trying
That's
my best. I'm
No, I
trying my
love
best.
it. So then they kind of talk about how they got into being in this Flag Smashers. We learn a little bit about him. I really like diving into this character. I want to see like where he goes.
Mhm.
Dylan, if you could do me a favor and like IMDb his name because I would love to know the character's name. I should have done that before, but so we find out that they're about to, do their big hit, which is at the GRC's like supplyment facility in where are they? Latvia, I think they are.
Yeah.
So, where Winston Bishop played basketball for all of those New Girl fans out there. Um so they're about to like, loot this place and they're talking a little bit about the power broker and everything. And Carly says the power broker is about to come begging. So that leads me to believe that maybe not all of the super serums were used. I think maybe they either have one or a couple saved on lockdown so that they could probably have, insurance over whoever might want to come after them. Like, hey, we still have some left over, so don't mess with us, kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
any luck, Dill, on the
Uh,
name?
I'm still looking. As I said, this episode, all the recaps they kind of breeze over Carly because
Mm.
you know IMDb. I wouldn't be able to pick it out from there just because all the names are
I
not
saw an I
recognizable.
saw an article about the actor. He has a very interesting name. Um,
We'll find it for next week and we'll talk about it next week then. Because yeah, if that works for
I
you.
apologize to anyone who
Yeah,
deeply
there are
loves this
people
character.
there are people screaming at us like,
Being like,
no, how do you
you
not
idiots,
know their
how did you
names?
start the podcast and not know all their names? Listen, I know it's early in the morning.
Hey,
We
we are the rawest of raw and when it comes to this podcast in terms of what we say on air is what you get. So we're not going to edit it out. Just we're not going to edit this to like include character names that we pretend like we knew when we didn't know them. We're going to be keep it authentic. That's it,
yeah,
not raw, authentic.
we keep it 100p here. Thank
That's
you
right.
again for hearing the second lamest thing I've ever said in my life.
Yep.
So then we cut back to John Walker, and he's kind of on Sam and Bucky's trail. Um, sweat us on the. Oh, okay. So this was the other anti-cap moment I took note of is when he's telling his friend Lamar, like, hey, everything we're about to do next might not be 100% legal. It might not be on the book. So just want you to get ready for that. And he's like, don't you think we're gonna get in trouble if we do that? And he's like, do you think if we get the job done they're gonna sweat us on the how? And that was very anti-Cap to me because even though Cap always stood up what he believed in and it did go against a lot of it went against what the US government wanted him to do, he always did it in a moral way. He
Yeah.
always stuck to his morals and his ethics and who he was in here because obviously as we know from uh the first Avenger that the serum just amplifies the goodness in you if you're a good man. So obviously that was everything Cap stood for was his
Right.
morals. And he's just willing to toss all that aside just to get what he wants, just to be the top dog at the end. And I'm just like time and time again they are just proving to us how wrong this guy
Yeah.
is to wield the shield and to stand in Cap's shoes and to be the Captain America. So
I
there
agree.
if you had any doubt from the first episode, you shouldn't now.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um
will say I did not necessarily defend that I liked him, but I did defend at least that he had at least more of a personality than like the first episode was, where it was just a face. At least they kind of like dove into him as
oh
a
yeah.
person beyond the armor. It wasn't just him as Cap, but like we got to know who John Walker was as John Walker, and you kind of empathize with him a little bit. The shaky hands and stuff. You understand that he's trying to fill these shoes. But by the end of the last episode, and again with this episode, it's very clear like no, he's not someone worth being like, oh yeah, but I like John Walker. No, like it's you're not supposed to like him, and I don't like him.
Mhm.
I know you don't, Kelsey. um yeah.
So then we cut to this scene in the jet where Sam's kind of like thinking about, everything that Sharon had to go through, everything that he's been hearing Zemo talk about. And he's like, you know what? It's driving me nuts how crazy people are going over this hunk of metal, he calls it. And
Hmm.
he's thinking to himself, well, maybe I shouldn't have given it to a museum. Maybe I should have destroyed it so it wouldn't be causing all these issues. And Bucky's like, well, no, that's not the answer because
No.
that shield still means a lot to people. It still saved
Hmm.
many lives. And
And this is the first time where Bucky himself is like, I would have even taken the shield. This is the
yeah.
first time we hear Bucky talk about like himself wielding the shield, which I think a lot of people. We were with some friends in the movie theater when he gives that shield to Sam. Some of them were like, I wish he gave it to Bucky, and it's because
Mhm.
it's fair. Both of them meant so much to Cap, so maybe
Mhm.
we will see Bucky even get his hands on it at some point, you know?
Yeah, totally. So exactly, Bucky says, I'm gonna take it. We know that the world needs a new Cap. We know it's not John Walker. I'm gonna take it from him myself.
Mhm,
So then we cut to the Flag Smashers raid. Loot the supply depot. And then on the way out, she's like, they say, like, you filthy flag smashers. And she's like, you've been sitting on all this supplies for 6 months. Don't you get it? We're fighting for our lives. So it's
mhm,
like, you kind of want to sympathize with this girl. But then she
yeah,
goes around and blows up the building. She rigs a car to explode, and then it causes a fire in the rest of the building, to which her friend, who, da 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 da, his name is Dovich.
Oh, you found it.
Dovich. Yeah,
Oh,
it was gonna bother
good
me.
job.
I couldn't wait
Okay.
until next week.
Well, there you go,
So
everyone. She does know it.
so Dovich says there were still people in there. Like, why did you do that? And she's like, don't you get it? Like, this is the only language these people know. Like, violence is the only way that we're going to get what we want
Right.
here. So then we kind of see him doubt a little bit, like Carly's intentions. She's going a little bit rogue on the Flag Smashers. Like, killing people was probably never really a part of the agenda. They just wanted to, grow their movement and liberate the displaced people and the half of the population that's probably been neglected these past couple months. So I'm starting to foresee maybe a betrayal happening between these two characters.
Maybe.
Maybe Dovich is like, this flag smash and shit isn't for me anymore, and I would love for him to join the side of Bucky and Sam, because I'm loving his energy, I'm loving his vibe. So then we cut to the last scene where Bucky, Sam, and Zemo were all kind of chasing down Carly to get to her. And they end up in Latvia, where the supply depot was. And Bucky says, "You know what? Give me a sec, guys. Give me guys a sec," is what I was gonna say.
Give me a
Give
sec,
me a
guys.
sec, guys. I'm gonna go for a walk. He
This was
tracks.
weird to me because just like, you've been continuing this action for so long, and then for him to just be like, I'm just gonna go for a walk. It was like, it just felt so weird. And then obviously we see why, but
Yeah.
I was a little confused why Sam wouldn't be like, wait, what? Like, you're not coming in with us? Like, what? Where are you going, man? Like, what?
I
Like,
mean,
we're
like,
here.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Men don't really communicate like that. I can totally like see like a group of guys being like, "All right, man, like walk it off, I guess," And
Like, don't
also like
question it. Just, yeah, go ahead.
he just had to like kind of get back into the mindset of the Winter Soldier on Madripoor. So maybe he does need to, blow off some steam, or,
Okay,
calm
that's
himself
fair.
down maybe.
Okay, good
That's
point. Good point.
that's how I'm gonna defend
Yeah.
that scene. But I agree. It was definitely weird. I was like, what is he about to do? Because I
But
can't
then
take
you
this.
start to see what he's doing again. Yeah.
Exactly. So he's tracking down these like orby things, balls, metal
Balls.
things,
These
these
balls.
beeping things. He's tracking them down, and he runs into a Wakandan soldier who says that she's there for Zemo. And he even says, like, I've been waiting. I was wondering when you guys were going to show up. So obviously, they are the nation of Wakanda is very aware that Zemo is out of prison and that he's just a free man
Mhm.
on the streets. Not really free, but he's not where he should be, and they want him to. They
Yeah.
want justice for
And this
King
is
T'Chaka.
the second in command then to Okoye, right? It's Io.
Yes, she was the Wakandan that was with T'Challa in Civil War.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's now we're bringing in that whole world. And what's interesting about this
Mhm.
show is that they are doing a lot of connecting the dots between different things like Civil War, then like you have the Wakanda stuff, and then even, I mean, it's all coming stemming from Civil War, but it's like different. You're connecting those dots now. It's like, how do we bring the Wakanda stuff to the Zemo stuff to the Sharon stuff? How do we connect it all? And then of course the looming John Walker-ness. I'm interested because we are now halfway through. Now I feel like there's a lot of juggling going on. Like, there's a
Mhm.
lot of stories now. You have Isaiah, which I don't even know if we're gonna revisit or if that was like a one-off thing. You have
Mhm.
John Walker, which was kind of invisible in this episode, save for like one scene or two. Carly, who was also in the same boat, like she was in the very beginning, very end, or whatever. The large chunk of it she wasn't in. Sharon, who came and went, but she's still around. Zemo, who's now with the crew, he's like the third in command in this little trio.
Mhm.
But he might have ulterior motives, and Io, who is coming after him. And
Yeah.
then you have Bucky and Sam themselves. You have a lot of layers. You have Sam's sister, Bucky, the friend from the first episode for
Yori.
Bucky, Yori. So it's like almost again, like we kind of ran into this with WandaVision. I'm not trying to make a ton of comparisons, but again, this is the only other TV show we have to compare it to in this new
Sure.
cinematic universe that isn't like the Daredevil stuff. That was a different time. These two TV shows, it's like you have 3 episodes left to do a lot. And it's like I don't want them to rush through too much, but at the same time, the things that seem to be dragging out a little bit too long, and I hate to say it, is the action. Because the action is cool and it's great, but like a few punches and like a cool little sequence is fine, but then sometimes it gets a little too long where it's like you could have this time, fleshing out a few more storylines. Make the episodes like 2 minutes longer, and then you can have a long action scene. I think they're prioritizing the action too much to where some of the plot lines are rushed through. And I like what you said, like it does feel like we're like covering a lot of ground all at once, but at the same time I
Mhm.
feel like because we are going a mile a minute, some things are left in the dust, and then the things that like don't necessarily progress the plot along are the things that are taking up like the 10-minute action sequence time, which I get, it's an action show. But again, when we're so invested in these characters now, as we saw with WandaVision, we don't need an action episode every episode. There was one episode of action that was the last episode. Like we sat through 8 episodes not needing that. We
Yeah.
just wanted the characters. We were just living with the characters. So I think it's
Yeah.
interesting that this show is very much like, okay, we're gonna put a 10-minute action sequence in the middle here. And it's like, no, like give me more of Carly, give me more of Sharon, give me more, now with all this new stuff coming in. Like, so I hope they stick the landing. This is not a criticism on the show because we don't know, but I do hope this is a wary look into the future. I hope they're gonna stick the landing and not give us a Darcy like they did in WandaVision, where she comes in for 2 seconds at the finale
Yeah.
and is like, "Oh, see you in prison." It's like, that's it. That's all you're giving her. Like, I hope we get this full fledged arc for a lot of these characters, at least Sam and Bucky in particular.
Yeah.
But what did you think of this ending and this series so far? And what are your thoughts on the episode and all that? I've talked a lot about my thoughts, but I don't actually know your thoughts aside from you like the men and and Zemo is now you are now Zemo's #1 fan.
I mean, listen, I don't want you to think that I just like completely objectified the men. That's not it
No,
was
no, no, no,
like I
no,
said, it
no.
was
Yeah,
more
you
about
you had valid reasons,
his like suaveness, his like
but again, a
confidence
part
and
part of looking up to someone too can be that like you can admire someone for that reason, and these are I mean originally like tight like superheroes wore tights like they've gotten a little less restrictive, but like there was always a level of attraction and like the
okay, I see what you're
physical and
saying.
attraction appeal to superheroes in general that was meant to like you know do exactly what they did for you. So
Thank you, Dill. Thanks for
I'm
sticking
justifying
up
it. You're
for
welcome.
me.
I'm sticking up.
Thank you.
You feel however you want to feel, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, thank you.
As long
Well,
as
I
it's
don't
not
wanna
something weird like Groot. As long as you're not getting like those feelings for like Groot.
okay, listen, I'm not stepping into some weird territory
I
here.
know. I mean, like
We're not
Vision.
gonna go
Vision was
there.
Vision was 3 years old. Like Wanda was messing with that 3-year-old.
Alright, we don't
Have you
have to
seen
go
those
there with that.
TikToks? You see those TikToks where it's like Vision's like 3 and it's like Wanda's
Baby
age is like
Vision from the '80s
in
episode?
no, but like Vision
Oh.
himself, like in terms of Ultron time, like
Oh,
he's only
okay.
3 years old.
Well, Jarvis had been there since 2008. So his
Even then, how
programming,
old would he
his
be? Like 12?
okay, that's fair. Maybe
I'm messing with you.
there's no defending this. But
Yeah, let's not let's what are your thoughts on the episode?
listen, I feel like I said everything that I need to say. My biggest question is the power broker. Who is the power broker? Do
Right.
you think it's going to be someone we know? Do we think that it's going to be a random person we get introduced to who kind of
I
ties into
think
maybe later projects? What are
I
your
think
thoughts, Dill?
because we are now halfway through, I think I want to say they need to make it someone we've seen before, but like
Okay.
if you're introducing a new character more than halfway through, like you better really, make sure we know them well because like the worst thing that some superhero movies do is they introduce a villain in the third act and it's like you don't have enough time to spend with them to where it's like they almost feel excess. Like they
Mhm.
feel like purposeless. So I'm a little wary about that. But if it is a new character, I hope they do that. They do a good exploration of him or her. Um, but yeah, I think it might be someone we've seen before. I think it would be interesting if it was someone we've seen before, connecting more dots. This seems to be a show that is kind of bridging together multiple areas of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it'll be interesting to see if there's another character that we can connect the dots with.
So I have a theory.
Okay. I knew you would. I knew you
So I have a theory. So when we are introduced to Wilfred Nagel and we're finding out his whole backstory about how he got into working with the super serum and doing all that stuff. So he says that he was recruited by the CIA
would. Mm-hmm.
to reinvent this serum. The power broker got heard of his work, invested in trying to get the serum back on the market. We know another character who has been in the CIA, Sharon Carter.
That's right. Maybe.
So I'm thinking if they met working in the CIA together, he told her, what was going down. I'm not saying during her time in the CIA she had any ill intentions and, wanted to get a hold of this stuff, but maybe cut to this Sharon Carter who's living in Madripoor, being a hustler, being this, fuck the US government type kind of bitch. Maybe she was like, I'm saying maybe she's the power broker. There, I
Maybe.
said it.
And here's the thing. That's the name of the episode. And the fact to not see the power broker in the episode called The Power Broker, it was a little weird.
Mhm.
But if it is her, then this episode was introducing her into this show. And
Mhm.
it's not Zemo. Zemo's not the power broker. So it's
No.
yeah, it's I mean if it is, that'd be crazy. But it was
Yeah.
Sharon there when Nagel died?
No, she came in right at the end and said, "What did you do?" So that's the only
So
thing
now
that
it's
makes me
another.
question this theory
Okay.
because I feel like why would you lead them right to your supplier, the
Mm,
only person who's able to remake the serum? Why would you lead them right to him, greatly putting his life in danger? I mean,
and that's the
she
thing.
could
Maybe
have
she didn't know they would kill him,
I
you
mean,
know?
but maybe, but I feel like that's still a risk to be like,
Sure.
nah, he's
Yeah.
I feel like that's a huge gamble, especially to put Zemo, the person that she nearly shot dead on sight in the beginning because she was like, "You took everything from me." She had a
Mhm.
Wanda v Thanos moment saying, "You took everything from me," and nearly shot him right for where she saw him, and then just put him in the room with her greatest, insurance policy. I don't know. That's the only
I don't
thing
know.
that makes me kind of doubt this theory a little bit, but I think that it would be
Wow.
super interesting, especially because everyone talks about the power broker using he him pronouns. So I'm like, are they're just assuming
Right.
that this big person in power is a guy? Hmm, don't love
Hmm.
that.
I really
It'd
like
be
the
a
theory.
nice plot twist.
I'm not gonna make my own theory because I didn't think about it in depth like that. But I thought it was just some guy behind the curtain that we're gonna find out later. But I think that makes a lot of sense. And honestly, I'm gonna piggyback off of that. So I won't take credit for it, but I'm gonna piggyback off of that. I'm gonna be looking for that. That's my bold prediction too. Then it's not a bold prediction now, but um, I will steal that prediction and make it my own as well. But if it ever comes to light, I will say you said it first.
Thank you,
Any
Joe.
last thoughts in the episode before we get into Easter eggs, Kels?
Um, no, I only have like I really no, no last thoughts.
Okay.
Sorry.
So Kels, did you have any Easter eggs you find or
Yes, I
okay?
noticed on the wall in Wilfred's what did I say? Wilfred's lab, the word Jaeger was on some of the walls and some of the equipment, and I just wanted to see if this had any meaning at all. I just typed into Google as I usually do, Jaeger Marvel, and came across this character, his name being Jaeger, who has super strength, speed, endurance, reflexes, all that good stuff. There really wasn't much about him, but he is this prominent character that kind of just embodies all of the powers that you get from the super serum. So maybe it was just a nod to that. We'll see. That's all
Yeah.
I have.
Cool.
Easter egg
Uh,
wise.
I only have one Easter egg too, which is kind of disappointing because yesterday was Easter. But we do have only one. We forgot our pastels. I thought, yeah, we
But we're
forgot.
both in green, so I think we've made
Yeah, I
up for
mean,
it.
yeah, definitely. Um, so only one, and that is the Princess Bar itself. So the bar. If we're looking, I mean, I don't want to do it because we did in WandaVision too. But if we're looking for any X-Men crossover, the
Okay.
Princess Bar in Marvel Comics Presents #1, the Princess Bar was owned by a man named O'Donnell and was home to a bunch of Wolverine espionage shenanigans. So there was a lot of
Ooh.
Wolverine stuff going on at the Princess Bar. So this was a destination for um, a lot of um, Wolverine centered action. So again, doesn't mean anything, because Quicksilver is not Quicksilver. It's just Ralph Boner. So,
You
um,
had to bring him up.
I had to bring him up.
I was
I'm not.
nearly over it. I was nearly getting over it, and now you've pushed me back a few months.
Yeah, but so this could be just hinting. This could be a subtle nod to like, oh hey, remember the Princess Bar in the comics? Yeah, Wolverine hung out there a lot. Or it could be like, oh well, you haven't seen the last of the Princess Bar because hangs out there, Wolverine. Um,
Mm,
which is interesting because I've never thought about them recasting Wolverine. It's just kind of been like a thing. Like I'd love for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to reboot X-Men, but I'm like, who could do it? That's not Hugh Jackman. And like I'm sure there's someone out there who's like perfect choice and is gonna be great, but I'm like, I didn't even think of him. Like I go through I'm like, who would play Storm? Who would play all this stuff? And then I'm like,
wait, they're
wow, like
rebooting something?
no, I'm saying if they were to reboot the
Oh,
X-Men, like kind of like how they're doing Fantastic Four, um,
sure.
because I think they made it clear with WandaVision that Evan Peters was not the same Quicksilver. So it's like you're not bringing the same cast over. I think it's going to be like if they do X-Men in this universe, it's going to be a brand new cast. So I don't know who they play will have to play Wolverine. Maybe someday we'll do our fan casting of the X-Men in the MCU,
Mm,
but um, that might be a fun future show idea. But that's it. That's all I have for Easter eggs. It was a very light episode. Again, I think this
yeah.
episode was a little transitional. It was kind of getting us like from point A to B, but at least the transition, there were a lot of good things to pick up along the way. It's like, you know, we're on the road and like the hitchhikers are all bringing something interesting to the party, but like we're still not at the destination yet, and we left the start, but we're still on the road. um
Mhm.
which is interesting, and I'm interested to see how it wraps up. Those little qualms of just like rushing a few storylines is what I was like a little underwhelmed by, but I like this team up. I like Zemo. I like the whole aspect of this ticking time bomb that could explode at any minute, being Zemo and Bucky, and it's now especially with all the Black Panther Wakanda stuff. They're coming after Zemo, so it's like one big cat and mouse chase. Except who knows who's the cat and who's a mouse? Who
Right.
knows? Who's to say? So Kelsey, where can they find all your amazing pictures and TikToks and videos and everything? Where can they find it all?
Well, I wanted to say one last thing before we went, which was
Before we do that, what do you have to say?
okay, so I did a little bit of a deep dive on Wilfred Nagel because even though that I was right about the power broker, when I talked about him last week, I talked about him with this gentleman named, hold on, I'm flipping through my notes. I'm flipping through my notes. Dr. Carl Malice is the
Okay.
guy in the comics who kind of works alongside the power broker. So I wanted to know if Wilfred Nagel was just a character they invented out of thin air or if he came from the comics as well. And it turns out that he's actually the direct successor from Stanley Tucci's character, Erskine.
Oh, yeah.
He was the direct successor after he died, and he was actually his code name in the comics was Dr. Joseph Reinstein,
Oh,
and he was the guy who um, conducted the trials with the 300 African American soldiers, and he was
mm,
the one who injected Isaiah and gave Isaiah his powers. So I
there you
just
go.
thought that that was an interesting, I guess, Easter eggy ish. I didn't
Yeah,
know if
make
it fell into the
another
category
connection to
of
the yeah
Easter egg,
to
but
the
I just
comic.
wanted to bring that up because I
Cool,
did look into it.
interesting.
You can find me at Kelsey A. Kilpatrick on Instagram or at Cause13 on TikTok or here on YouTube, Cause Productions.
Nice. And of course, if you are listening to us, you can find us on the YouTube video here at the Dill Pickle Movie Network. I got lots of cool stuff planned very soon. I am doing my own award show the Pickle Awards, on brand. I'll be giving out the Golden Pickle for all these categories: best movie, but also some superlatives like who's the best movie villain of the year, or what's the best movie lip lock. Iconic kisses are always iconic too.
Ooh, I
The
love
best fight,
this.
the best fight sequence. Like we're not just sticking with the Oscar standards. We're going into some MTV Movie Awards territory too. We're gonna even award the worst film of the year. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. I will have my nominations for that tomorrow. That's right, Tuesday. You will get the nominations, and you will get to vote for an audience award. At the end of the day, I will decide the Pickle Award winner because it's my awards, but the audience is going to have a say too. So there will be a Google link of an audience award participation survey. You'll take it, and whoever gets the most votes will win the audience award. And we may even have some guests. I haven't even talked to Kelsey about this yet, but we might have some guests from the other shows here on the Dill Pickle Movie Network, maybe presenting a few of those awards at the award ceremony that are a few weeks after that. So Pickle Award nominations will be coming out tomorrow. A few weeks later will be the Pickle Awards, then Oscar predictions, Oscar reactions, and then, of course, an episode of Picture This, where we will talk about the Oscar nominees, an episode of Frame where we were talking about Birdemic, 2 episodes. We already did 1 episode of the Great American Film Off. We have another episode of the Great American Film Off talking about Oscar snubs. So it's award season. We're getting crazy with award stuff. Marvel-ous Movie Mondays is the only non-awards centered thing that you'll see every week, but it's okay because Chadwick Boseman is representing Marvel in the award season, so it's fine. We're
That he
connected to
is.
awards too. So a lot of cool stuff happening at Dill Pickle Movie Network. So if you're listening, please check us out there on YouTube. And if you're here on YouTube, thank you for being here. Subscribe. If every single subscriber tells 5 friends to subscribe, we could be in the hundreds, and we could get this monetized very, very fast, and we could keep giving you even more amazing, beautiful work. Because I've been having a blast doing this podcast, and we want to keep it going. We want to keep it live and fresh, and we want to keep expanding it and seeing what we can do next with the podcast and with the whole show in general. You can also find me at Dylan_Randazzo on Twitter and at Dylan Randazzo 417 at TikTok. I have not TikToked in a while. I'll TikTok this week. Why not? So if you want to see my new TikTok this week, I don't know what it'll be, but I'll TikTok this week. Thank you all so much. I've been rambling so much. Any last words, Kels?
Was that you asking me to present something for the?
Maybe Kelsey will be a presenter for the awards. We'll chat about it as soon as we're off the air.
Because that's what I gathered.
Yeah, that you gathered correctly.
And can I just say I'm honored. Thank you so much, Dill.
You're welcome. All right, everyone. Have a very, very safe week. Enjoy yourselves. If you're vaccinated, eat lots of ice cream for that sore arm. You deserve it. You're doing your part. We're proud of you. And if you're not, and you're staying healthy, wearing your masks, obliging by the rules, we respect you just as much, and we love you. And we can't wait to be back here again next Monday talking about episode 4. All right, see you.